I just had the most incredible download about the divine masculine. So please tell me if you've heard anybody else talking about this, because this literally came to me while I was driving in the rain, and I had to start dictating to my keep file this information that was flooding into my awareness. And so I'm going to be reading it because I'm just going to read directly what I shared or what I was saying as it was downloading into my perspective, my awareness. The part of me that is showing up as divine masculine would be the part that says, I've got this. And the part of me that was the dark feminine or the egoic feminine, the old paradigm 3D feminine, would show up as, I have to hold everything. So that's how my egoic feminine kind of constantly went through life, is holding everything, holding everything. And the way that this egoic masculine would support the egoic feminine was to keep giving her things to hold, so that the 3D version of myself couldn't find balance, because the masculine always took energy or added more stuff to my plate, which made me feel responsible for everything. And I was looping in that story until I started bringing my divine feminine online. Once I started working with the divine feminine a few years ago, all the women started showing up in my life, empowered, present, conscious women. And now it's time for me to work on allowing the divine masculine to show up. The way that I see my divine masculine is the way that I see my dad or Michael, my husband, and my brother when they're at their best. Really stable, really present, extremely supportive. That's my divine masculine. And I haven't seen enough representation of that divine masculine on a regular basis in my life. So it's almost as if, I'm creating him from scratch, my personal divine masculine. I already started getting the answer because I'm dictating this while I'm driving, and I'm feeling a little tired and not fully in my body, and so I've been worried about driving. This is the time when I could call on my divine masculine instead of calling on the egoic version of my feminine. In the past, I would have called on her, and she's always been that unbalanced version of myself, the kind of like gripping and codependent and I'll take care of it. I really struggled with that version of myself for a long time until I started doing therapy, I've said. But because I didn't know what a healthy masculine looked like, I had a really hard time knowing how to call on him because he didn't really exist in me. So as I'm driving now, it just started raining, which is another sort of difficult experience for me. I don't love driving in the rain. So then I just called on the divine masculine, and he's the version of me that in a healthy way says, I've got this. Calm, present, confident, peaceful. That's the version of my divine masculine that I've never known. And of course, now I feel tears and the divine masculine shows up and holds me and I feel stable and present. I've literally never had a divine masculine version as a full, all the time representation in my life on a consistent basis. That being said, my husband, my dad, my brother, like, I'm not just saying that. They really do have a lot of genuine, beautiful, masculine traits that my divine masculine is kind of built on. What that says to me is that I'm actually creating it into existence. And now I'm starting to realize this is the part for the collective. And now I'm starting to realize how we would create the divine masculine in our society when many of us have probably never witnessed or experienced very much divine masculine. Mr. Rogers comes to mind as what I said in the thread. And there have been gurus and ascended masters, but even gurus often struggle with their humanity and their egos. We've never had like a consistent divine masculine always showing up to be like, this is what the divine masculine looks like. It's been very, very, very few and far between and extremely inconsistent. The next realization that I just had is that we have had many, many representations of the divine feminine in our reality. I could name so many right now. I know that divine feminine in human is still going to have flaws, but when divine feminine shows up as a person in female form, she always shows up to take care of others and herself, just like the matriarchy. The divine feminine has stayed alive in so many of us, and she never left us fully alone. She's always been there underneath the surface, and what I believe is the divine masculine can only show up when the divine feminine is in her true and pure form. That's within each of us and in society. Okay, continuing. Because she would birth him and she would nurture him, and he would absolutely feel supported and be able to evolve, knowing his best and highest form, just like in the divine feminine. So this is where I put, the true divine masculine. I feel safe, I feel seen, heard, held, and supported. That's what the true divine masculine is for me. The more he wakes up in me, the more tapped in I feel to my highest version of myself. It's time to wake up the divine masculine. He can only wake up when the true divine feminine has tipped the scales within each of us. Okay, this is what it says for the rest of the talk to text. I've been full on channeling while I've been driving. I've been able to navigate the rain, the traffic, and my discomfort while I channeled this insight. This is literally how the divine masculine will support me from now on. A powerful, calm, stable energy of support, safety, feeling held, and feeling like someone always has my back. And because of this beautiful vision, I'm fully aware now that I will start seeing this more in human form. So I think the rest was mostly personally for me. And then it says, let's see. It takes less energy to allow the divine masculine to be on board because it has stability, presence, security, safety, support, and being held energy. Therefore, there's less thinking involved because it just comes naturally. That's the divine masculine. And I know many of you may say that, no, that's the divine feminine. Stop it. We need to allow the divine masculine to come on board to support us in that place where we need stability, because the old paradigm 3D version of the feminine is the one that's just been like holding it all together and trying to grip and pray to God something comes and helps us, because that's what the divine masculine is built for. The divine feminine is not built for that. She's built for so much more, as we've been uncovering and becoming more aware of. So take it as you want to, but to me, this is huge. And I'm so curious if anyone else has heard anybody else talking about this, because I'm going to check in with some of my other meditators and downloaders channels out there and see if anybody else has gotten this message, because this to me is freaking huge. All right. Let me know what you think. Have a blessed day.